Turn on our microphones now. All right, we'll call this meeting to order. This is a Town of Alpine workshop, work session. I don't know what we're calling it yet, but it's going to be one or the other. Just to clarify, with the work sessions, no decisions are made at these meetings. This is basically just a chance for the town council to bring people in to ask questions and everything. So get more information before we have to make decisions. So anyways, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Monica.
Councilman Larson.
Present.
Councilman Dickerson.
Present.
Mayor Green.
Here.
Councilman Castillo.
Here.
And Councilman Burchard.
Here.
You have a quorum of your council.
All right, great. First discussion item tonight is Alpine Flats Development Agreement, and we've got Dale Cottom and Drew Hale up first. Whoever wants to.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I could introduce Ken Katie, he's one of the principals of Sundance Properties. He's got many years of developing projects like this, many successful projects in his portfolio, and a lot of experience and wisdom. If it pleases the mayor and the council, he'd like to introduce himself and give kind of a bird's eye view of this project at first.
Absolutely.
And then we would proceed however you prefer.
Absolutely. Come on over and turn on that microphone if you don't mind.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name's Ken Katie. A little history about me. I've lived in Jackson since 1994, and I helped develop part of Jackson and Driggs and Lander, and also Victor. And I stopped doing it about 15 years ago. I left. I wouldn't develop in Jackson again because of the mistakes of the city councils and everybody were making. And they destroyed Jackson. And so Shane Law, I don't know if you know Creed and Law and all these folks in Jackson. But anyway, Shane bought that property 25 years ago, and he put a scrap permit on it. He could demolish vehicles on that property. And he asked me about it, and I said, what do you do, Shane? Don't do that. Just sit back on that permit. And he waited it out for about 20 years. And because I build apartment complexes in the West, I've got a project, 42 acres in Las Cruces right now. The state of Wyoming, there's several of them that they've asked me in other communities to do. We're finishing up one in Lander right now. He wanted apartments, and Creed wanted them. And I said, they're not ready. They're just not ready. And finally, it came to the point where it looked like Alpine needed something. And so we set out on a 2-year deal, turn our engineers loose on that project to say, okay, what can we do? And what did Jackson do wrong so that we wouldn't make the same mistakes? Let me give you a few examples. We fought the planning department and the town of Jackson for years and years because they kept trying to raise the height of the buildings. And the reason we fought that was that what happens is you can't, there's 3 roads that goes into Jackson, 3. You double, you raise the height and you put a 3rd story on the buildings, you raise the population by 50%. You can't improve the roads, you can't improve the parking, you can't improve the infrastructure. So that fight went on for years and years until, as what happened to Jackson is they get new guys that move to Jackson, they want to change everything. And they don't have this history. And so when they started changing it, a bunch of us said, let's just go somewhere where they appreciate it. Let's go to Lander, let's go to Laramie, let's go to Sheridan, let's go wherever. And that's what happened. A lot of the guys that had the history left, and all of a sudden Jackson got destroyed. And Alpine has got some real crossroads here to figure out. I'm going to recommend a few of them. Number one, do not raise your height restrictions. Number two, the second thing that Jackson does wrong is, if you'll look at Jackson, the only way they can justify the price of the land is put a building on every square inch of the property. There's something called surface area ratios in multifamily. You've got to set this up right, and you've got to make it what you want your community to look like. Now, when I say that, we spent 2 years working on this, of all the problems, the good and the bad in the different communities, because we've got a lot of history here. And we could have doubled the number of units on that property very easily. But we chose not to. We chose to spread it out and make it right. The second thing we did, Wyoming has some interesting problems. One of the problems is we're not very good at some of this stuff. We don't have the expertise, whether it's engineering or inspectors or architects or whatever, because we don't have any experience, or most people don't have a lot of experience here. And so what we try to do is we try to bring our experience in with our engineers and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this thing right. And you guys just follow along here. Kenneth worked with us. Baba Bondi worked with us. The county worked with us. The state worked with us. The fire marshals worked with us to make this right. In the process, a lot of people learned a lot of things. And it became a pretty good project. And we ran into a few issues, lack of concrete and some things like that stopped last year's production. So we just went and did another project somewhere else. That's a risk that you run. We could shut this project down for 10 years and we'll just go do a different one. And it'll just sit there. But if you do, you're going to lose your community, because you cannot create commercial space without housing. It just doesn't work. Let me give you a story. Shoshone, New Mexico, or Shoshone, Wyoming. They had a very large manufacturer that tried to come in on a railhead. And they're coming until they tried to bring their people in, and there was no housing. And they had to pull the project. This is going on all over the West, not just in Wyoming, but all over the West. People are coming out of the East Coast and the West Coast, and they're flooding in everywhere.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you get the feeling that Alpine isn't positive on your development?
Well, we've run into some issues here. One of the things when you're in a small town, there's a little bit of a good old boy network that you have to work through. And you have to kind of figure out who the players are. And this is what we spend a lot of time working on. We think that the majority of people want the project, but they don't understand what we've run into to make the project work. And that's, let me give you an example. Whenever you do these things, you have these agreements on what the permitting fees are going to be. That's all established early on. We tried to get an agreement early on with the prior administration, and we tried multiple times to do it. And it's always put off to the point where you guys doubled the fees on us to build. Don't know if you did that on purpose or if you did it because you thought we were going to make too much money, or
Do you mean the sewer hookups?
The tap fees and the building.
all of it. So you double the fees on us. And we work on a 10-year plan. And so we have the numbers, and we try to set these development plans up so that everybody knows how it's going to come together. We can't get that through with you guys. That tells us a lot right there. We go on into this thing, and we could have hooked the sewer line directly to Weeman's system. And your guys asked us not to do that because they didn't want another lift station. So we said, okay, what do you want? So they asked us if we could put a sewer line 1,200 feet through somebody else's property to get to ours. And we agreed to do that with the understanding that we could work out a deal to on the tap. Now, let me back up a second. You got this. Alpine received money from the state of Wyoming to increase the usage of the sewer system. So there was money for that. Bob Blondie and the prior administration said, if you route this through there, then we'll see what we can do about covering that first 1,200 feet through tap fees. Whether you waive them or however it has to be done. That way the town, they didn't have any money to do it, but we would cover the cost. And you guys would get the sewer line, the neighbors could hook into it, everybody would be happy. We never got that agreement. We still don't have that agreement. And we're weighing our options, how we're gonna deal with this. And so the first 1,200 feet has been hanging out there for 2 years. There's been multiple workshops on this, and they're gonna speak to this. I don't go to them because I've got other things I've got to worry about. The second part of this was within the property. Once it gets to the property, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? How is it going to be serviced? And what does it need to be? Let me give you a great example. Right now, there's a 1,200-foot sewer line that runs into the property, and then another 1,000-foot on our property. Because of the slope that we were asked to put on it, if we don't build 2 buildings minimum, the sewer line will not work. Will not, because it's too flat. It's got to have too much water flowing in it. So we have to get these 2 buildings in there for this to be successful. Minimum. We've got set up to put 4 in there right now to get this to work. But we don't feel like we just need to get this development agreement resolved one way or the other so we can decide what we're going to do. And so what I'd like you to remember when they get up there, you got multiple issues. The first one is the first 1,200 feet. That's not on our property. That's out in, I don't know what they call Alpine Meadows or something like that we put in. We allowed Kennis, there was 3 options. There's that force main we could go directly off our property to. Number 2 was to go straight to Tolson's property. And the third was to route through by a lot of neighbors so many people could hook in. That was the requested route by the town. We actually were asked to add extra hooks at the different, I don't know how many
5 hooks and then a stub off the manhole floor, which
so that we had multiple requests. Can you add this? Can you add that? That's from the town. And we did it because they didn't have the money to do it and it would make that neighborhood work. Now, let me give you the bad side of what's going on here. And I'll use a refuge. And I don't even know the folks that have the refuge. But did you guys inspect one property there? No. Nobody inspected anything. Do you think it's all built to code?
Well, they wouldn't be annexed in if it weren't, we wouldn't.
They're not annexed in.
If they wanted to be annexed in, they would have to build to our requirements.
How are you going to prove it?
We will inspect it if they want to be in.
The inspections work differently than that because when you walk in, you inspect the wiring when you can see the wiring. You inspect the plumbing when you can see the plumbing. Basically, when you build things, you basically, the reason we have inspections, I have errors and omission insurance with you guys with your inspectors. Our architects are forced to have error and omission insurance. Our engineers are required for the same thing. Everybody has insurance so that as we go through the process, when the building's finished, if it's wrong, there's somebody that's going to be held accountable. Right now, you have nobody you can hold accountable. So whether you annex somebody in and you have no accountability, that's a difficult situation for you.
But we have accountability on your particular project.
We chose to do that. We were out in the county, and we wanted you to be part of this.
Because your
So,
intention was always to be in the town.
I'm sorry?
Your intention was always to be in the town.
It was, and there's some reasons why we do this. We always want to be in a town because we feel like number one, we're such an addition to the community, we need to be part of that. That's our number one deal. Number two, if in all of this, if I build a project in Denver, if I don't get the buy-in of the community, then it fails. There has to be a buy-in. You can't have this rogue apartment complex sitting in the county that's tapped into city services, and, there's always a fight, well, I'm not part of the town, so I shouldn't have to pay for all these things. And obviously, you should. You've got to have something to contribute to your tax base. And this is how you get it. By having, you've got.
I think
Yes, sir.
we're all on the same page as far as that's concerned.
Okay?
I just wanted to address a couple things you said.
Sure.
I don't know why we're in the position we're in right now.
Uh-huh.
That it got kicked down the road so many times, but that's the position we're in right now.
Yes, sir.
So, I don't know a lot of the history. Hopefully we'll get to the bottom of that, but I will assure you, no one I am not negative towards your development.
Thank you.
So we want your development, and we want it as soon as you can get it to us.
Okay?
Okay? So, as far as getting the agreement done, that's the main reason why we're here talking for sure.
Okay.
Another couple of things you said, as far as raising the rates, all that stuff, that was done by the last administration, and to be honest, I'm glad they did it, because our sewer we're broke. We need the money.
Okay.
So whether it's really difficult for us to say, on this date, this is the price, and then you have infinity amount of time to build it out before we could have had 3 rate hikes until you basically develop it. So you're kind of holding us back in that sense.
Well, may I address that? Let me ask you this. If I put $300,000 into a sewer line that's not on my property with an agreement, I tie that money up. I don't make interest on it. It's the same situation where it's costing me money, it's costing you money. And what we're trying to do is come to a happy medium where we all feel like it's a fair shake. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking to make anything special here.
Well, we don't have all the players either. I wish
Okay.
Bob Blondie was here, because he could
Mhm.
probably talk to a lot of those things. But our goal tonight is to really get as much information as we can.
Okay?
So I really appreciate.
That's what
you
these
coming.
gentlemen are for.
Yep.
I'm just the overview guy that's trying to tell you kind of a little bit of history, because I've done this for 45 years in a lot of places, and I've seen a lot of different
Right.
situations. And this is one of those where, we just need to get it resolved, one way or the other. And
Let's
then,
do it. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Jeremy, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just, when you keep mentioning the prior administration, is that the prior mayor, the prior engineer, the council?
primarily the mayor, but I think these gentlemen need to speak to that, because they were in the day-to-day contact, and it would just give me reports of what's going on. But remember that, the mayor was very pro-growth, and he was doing things his way. Bob Blondie was trying to support that. I think everybody in the prior council was trying to support that.
Well, that's-
So they were all going the right direction.
I would agree that
Yeah.
being from the prior council, we all
Okay.
support it.
Yeah,
With that said, we also never officially voted on anything to any contracts.
it never got to you. That's what I don't understand.
Just
That
so
is
we're
the
on
part
same
that we're
page.
struggling with.
Yeah, so, and that's where I don't know.
Yeah.
That's where the communication needs to kind of come in of like, it's me being on the prior administration.
Mm-hmm.
I can honestly say I never made any contracts, never made any agreements, never made anything. So
Yeah.
that's where
That's, we're on the same page on
Yeah,
that, because it basically kept falling into a black hole.
Yeah.
And basically, they had a work session in December, correct?
That works, to be honest with you.
That, I was there for that.
Nothing happened there.
Nothing
That was a waste of time.
nothing did happen there, and
So anyway,
It's a lame duck kind of deal, and unfortunately,
It got kicked
it
down.
got kicked down.
yeah, it's been just for 2 years, it's been kick. But anyway, what I'd like to do now is let the experts, they know the facts and they know what we need to do. Let them handle this thing and work with everybody, and let's see if we can get this thing resolved.
Let's do
Okay?
it. Well, thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, awesome.
I got about 3 or 4 emails on that one, so.
Mayor, maybe we could kind of co-present. if-
Absolutely,
if it's
please,
all right,
yes,
Mayor.
feel
I'm just
free.
gonna set this right here.
Oh, that'd be fine.
Yeah, we'll just have these handy, and then Drew can probably start it.
We could actually bring that
Yeah,
easel
if
over,
you wanna-
or if we have to.
We
Yeah,
also have that.
yep. We-
You wanna-
Yeah. I got you.
Okay. Thanks, Monica.
Clips and magnets.
Yeah, those new purchases today. Just for this year.
Let's see how strong, all right. Okay, so, I mean, I think we've all got a pretty good idea of what's going on here, so, and I mean, Ken, that was a pretty thorough coverage of where we've landed, and I know you've been here, a lot of you have been here throughout this whole process, so I guess, what are the questions? What are questions, comments, concerns? You know, what do you guys need? What do we need to do? I think that our development agreement as it sits is has gotten a little off in the weeds, a little convoluted. You know, we've muddied the development with this sewer line extension, and we might just do a little bit of a reset here and see what we can do to make this make more sense for all parties involved.
So Drew, if you don't mind, just give us the Cliff Notes version of the project and up to where it stands right now.
Yep. So, I mean, you know, we designed, so we have 20 acres to work with there. It's 2 10-acre parcels. There's one commercial building on there right now. It's sitting in the county. It was a junkyard. I'm sure everyone knows all that. And I remember the day that it got cleaned up, there was a house across the street that had been for sale for 3 months, and it's, I don't know if it was a coincidence, but it sold immediately.
Yeah.
So, you know, we saw a vision there for, we do apartments, it's what we do. It's
Right.
what we're good at. And we had a design done specifically to kind of match the motif of this area. This is not a design that we've used before. You know, so there was a lot of thought that went into that. The first rendition, they had 20 buildings stamped in that property, just like, it looked like a bunch of cars. It looked like a parking lot. It was awful. And we're just like, we're not going to do that. We're
Yeah.
going to spread it out a little bit more. In the meantime, we were talking with the town on getting, obviously we can't have all those on wells and septic tanks. It's not going to work. So we're talking to the town about how to get water and sewer, and you know, the water was pretty simple because there's already water to the refuge, so it was right there at the bottom of the corner of the property. The sewer was much more complicated. There was a whole lot of engineering that went into it, and I'm sure you guys know how complicated that can be. So, but basically the town, you know, they said, we're going to get you water and sewer either way. We'd love you to be a part of the community. And, you know, and as Ken already pointed out, that makes sense for us, you know, if you're a large chunk of the available housing that people can afford without, you know, dropping several $100,000 or $10,000 a month mortgages on their house that they don't have the income for. It makes sense to be a part of the community. And so we work together the town doesn't have any money to get the sewer line there, but, you know, here's A, here's B, let's figure out how we can get it there. And again, a lot of conversations, you know, there were never any contracts, and that's I think a mistake that everybody made, but we had to move forward. We can't sit here and wait for, in business, I'm sure you guys all understand, you gotta keep moving forward. So sometimes you just have to make the decision, all right, we're gonna have to come back to this, but we gotta keep moving forward. And so,
Drew, why don't we just split it up and just hit the sewer lift first?
Yep.
What we need to do there, and then let's hit the plan.
yeah,
And what we really need to do so we can get something done.
that's what I would like to do. I think, and this might be where the contract stuff comes in. We need to kind of.
Let me, when you're talking about this and you keep saying town,
Mm-hmm.
that to me is a term of art. Wouldn't you agree, Dale?
It can be, it can be.
But Dale, you know that the mayor or the engineer can't bind the town without bringing it before a public meeting.
Well, for us to achieve a development agreement, it's gotta be approved by the council.
Exactly. So before you went and did all these things, it seems to me that you should have had that in place.
Well, what? Okay, so if I could speak to the history just a little bit.
Why don't you go?
Yeah,
Yep.
you bet. Let me grab this. So, this development, or the discussion about this development started as a potential PUD in the county. And we came before you for approval of our master plan so that we could then actually present the PUD to the county. The original idea was to be in the county.
That's because you're required to bring it before us.
That's right. The county development regulations require that we come before you and get approval if we can, which we did. And then we continued to discuss this concept in the county. We did not feel nearly as welcome by the county as we did the town. We could not build the concept and the vision and the site plan that we wanted to build in the county. And we were much more confident that the town of Alpine, led by the mayor at the time, would get us through the process. There is not a history that I'm aware of with the town of Alpine for development agreements. There's one famous one, infamous one. Other than that,
You know really well.
I know that really well. Other than that one, I have to admit I've not ever seen another one. So there was not, and that one was so different. The situation was just so different than this that there really weren't very many parallels. We were given multiple assurances by the mayor that he had the backing of the council, and that we would be treated fairly and compensated for the route that we chose for the sewer line and working with the
Can I
town.
Stop you right there.
Sure.
Compensated. He promised compensation?
That we would be reimbursed and given equivalent value for the additional investment that we put into this line. And let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. We could have gone straight north with this line, okay?
Right.
Could have gone right through here. At one of the prior work sessions, the mayor said, you couldn't get, Mayor Lutz said, and I'm sure it's in the record, you couldn't have done that because you couldn't have gotten our agreement.
The
And I-
easement or
That's right. And
That's what I remember.
I didn't correct him, I did not correct him in the meeting. Okay, that's not my understanding, okay? I talked to the Toolson family. In fact, I know their daughter very, very well. My son worked for her for a long time. And I spoke with Mrs. Toolson and I said, this is what we're looking at doing. And she said, okay, well, we'll get with my lawyer and you guys talk about it and then he can bring it to me and we'll go from there. Well, before this discussion of this route got very far, Mayor Lutz very clearly communicated that he wanted us to go here. And in fact, I met the mayor here at this manhole one day in the summer, he and we walked this route. He said, Dale, this is where I want you to put it. He said, this benefits the town. This helps us. This does not, but this does. He says, he can hook on, he can hook on, he can hook on. These people can hook on. This person can. This person wants to right now. We paid good money for an easement here. We paid really good money for an easement here and paid attorney's fees to get to here. Okay, so we trusted that what we were hearing would be recognized by the town. Now, maybe that was foolish, but we trusted that what we were hearing, that we would be treated fairly. This, we assume you want this line. I mean, we understand this person up here wants to hook up now, yesterday, last year. We assume you want this line, but we can't turn it over and put it into service until we can reach an agreement, and an arrangement on what this line is worth. Would it cost us 300? I know it was over 250. Yeah.
So why is it so far east on the property? If you would have brought it into that corner on the southwest,
Sure.
would you have brought it over to that location anyways?
You'd have to ask Drew, but we build this in phases, and we're building this.
It would go
Yeah.
there, but I'll tell you, we already put all the infrastructure on our property, and it was way easier, because we're not working with anything. You know, there's not roads, there's not traffic, there's
Right.
not people's yards you're going through, there's not existing utilities.
Well, looking at that map, I mean,
It was
basically,
a nightmare, and I think Monica knows.
looking at that map, I don't know how much more difficult it is to do all those zigzags, but if you would have gone straight up and over, you would have put the same amount of pipe in the ground, correct?
Ultimately, to get to these buildings, yes, but it was way more complicated beside the road there and through
Yeah, being
yards.
next-
We're on top-
Crossing a county
Yeah, I
road,
imagine.
On top of other
crossing a
utilities.
private subdivision,
Go ahead. Yeah.
Crossing two private, and we have to get easements because the way that subdivision is, they own in the middle of the road.
Sure.
We didn't even go on their property, but technically you did. It was a nightmare.
Instead of just crossing
Tons
the
of
road right there,
yeah.
you had to
Utility-
travel.
yeah, go ahead,
Silver
Drew, you know.
Star's
Yep,
got,
yep.
they've got fiber optics all running through there.
Right.
Lower Valley Energy they dropped that power line like 5 times. It was,
The backfill requirements are significantly more difficult and expensive here than they would be on our own property.
Of course,
crossing the road, the county had special requirements for that road.
yep.
So that's the history. That's what we're looking for. We can't, I mean, if we'd have waited for a development agreement before doing what we have done now, there would still be junk cars out there. I evicted the guy who had the junk yard out there, had to go to trial. It was very contentious. I mean, and getting that property cleaned up took a court order. I'm the one who was assigned that task. If we had waited until we had a development agreement, there would still be junk trailers out there. So that's kind of the history.
Let me ask you
Yeah,
a quick
mhm,
question.
yeah.
So, walk me through the reasons why, other than being suggested to hook into our sewer, why you just didn't go hook up the other way like you were, like Ken was suggesting?
The mayor asked us to do this. I mean.
What would it have cost to just do the easier option where you would
Oh.
have put in the lift station and?
I don't know. Do
The
you?
lift station, well,
be on the highway right there.
That would be over, that would be over here somewhere,
Yeah, just off the highway.
right over here, I think.
so, I mean, and that's why this is two different, that's why this is
Yeah.
kind of two different issues. I mean, we're talking about the infrastructure inside the property, and we're talking about this sewer line extension that, other than servicing the project, doesn't have anything else to do with us, other than the fact that we put it in front of the cost for it. So that's why I thought this got real messed up, where we tried to meld these two things together. It's two different issues. And, I mean, I think everyone would agree with that. Because, obviously, we're not asking anyone to pay for stuff that goes on inside, it's our development, it's our
Right.
cost. So, but, and again, there was heavy implications on things. I understand that apparently nobody in this room had anything to do with that, but
Well, and
it's kind of,
to be blunt, that's part of the reason why I'm here. I mean, I was elected because I'm not open to doing just handshake deals, to be blunt. So, and I want it to be out in the open. That's why we're discussing this here, and we're gonna get it figured out.
yeah.
I don't know how to rehash the history with Mayor Lutz, but
And that's fine, and I don't think,
we just have to figure out a way to get past that.
Mhm.
And our intention is to come up with development agreement going forward because we don't want to run into this problem. So I feel like this is a test case for all of us. So we want to do it right. So,
And I kind of didn't get to finish. I'll tell you where we are to present. That line is done and it's ready to go and it's certified. And I think I gave everyone all the documentation on that. When in the package that I sent to them. I'm sure she didn't print all that out because it's just a ridiculous number of pages and everything. So that line is certified and ready to go. We had a lot of problems with it, but it's right now. So, and all parties involved made sure that happened. Our engineers are happy. Bob was happy, so I assume that transfers over going forward. That line is ready to go, the extension. The easements are,
That water issue
Well-
is a very big issue.
it is, so.
what
and
the slope?
It's virtually flat. It's at 0.1%. Now, it's a 10-inch line, and that's doable from an engineering perspective, but in the real world, I'll tell you, when they were running the tests on that, it took 45 minutes for the water to get from one manhole to the next. It took forever to do the testing.
So are you saying on your property or the rest of the line?
The 10-inch line, which is gonna be just the extension here. Ours is all 8-inch, and so it's got a little more slope to it.
So Ken, tell me, or Drew, just tell me what your concern is. I mean, we can't do anything about that.
Oh, I mean, if there's one guy, so right now, I believe Robert Shockey he's got some which I think he just annexed into the town as well. Right?
No?
Yeah, he did,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so he's got some multifamily and we had an agreement with him. He's ready to tap in, but I mean, he's got like 9 units over there. It's gonna be problems. Like, it's just, they're gonna have to have Macy's or something out there probably.
Water's not gonna flow.
No, all the solids will stay behind.
Okay, so what's the solution for that?
Well, we gotta get 2 buildings going right away over here and I mean, it's designed for the whole project, but 2 buildings is gonna be enough flow where there's water always running in that
Right.
line. So, but, we're just kind of at this impasse here, and like I said, we had made some modifications. I don't know why there's a stub going off manhole 4 there. I have no idea why. They asked us to put it in there. We're like, we're right here. It makes sense. It's stupid for them to dig it out later and try and core a hole in the side of a manhole. And I mean, this stuff is deep. I don't know if you ever saw it over there, but it is. It's dangerous. It is not good. Nobody wants to dig that deep over there anymore.
Yep.
So
So Mr. Sanderson, I've seen the markups on the development agreement that you've done. What's your opinion where we stand?
Well, I guess my opinion is they're asking for, and you guys can correct me if I'm reading this wrong, Mr. Cottom. You're asking for some sort of credit for this extension.
Or offset, if you wanna call it an offset.
You're asking for compensation. I liked that word. For the sewer line that you've put in, plus a reduction of the fees. So in my mind, and don't take this, there's no offense intended, you're asking the people of the town of Alpine to subsidize your project.
No, we are asking for,
Well, what is it? I mean, I know you're not saying subsidize our project, but if we credit you for this and then give you lower fees for that, lower connection fees, and it's nothing personal, those were not raised because of you guys.
Do you want that sewer line to work? Do you want
I'm not
it
an
to
engineer.
work?
well,
Do you want it to work?
so,
I'm asking you a question.
Let's,
I'm
hey Ken,
talking-
let's let these two just talk for a
You
minute.
need a new lawyer, is what you need.
I think
You
we're, so let's just keep it within the construct that we're looking for here.
so we were told that.
But you keep
Okay,
saying
so
this, but Dale, you've been a town attorney before, right?
I am a town attorney.
You are a town attorney. You know that a mayor and an engineer can't bind the council. It has to be brought before the council.
But we did that. We did that, Jim.
But you didn't have an agreement yet.
This is probably the fifth time.
I know, but they didn't decide to accept it.
And we're here asking you, for probably the fifth time, to consider our proposal.
And
We're not disrespectful.
and I understand that, but what I'm asking you is why are you expecting us to subsidize or pay for that? He says so it makes it work. Okay, that's a good argument, but what else?
So offsets, credits, grandfathering properties with respect to any number of attributes, including tap fees and building permit fees, is not uncommon.
I know it's not uncommon,
And-
but you're also talking in municipalities that have the budget that don't have the problem with their sewer and water fund that we do.
Your budget will be greatly,
But you
Increase
use
with
these
these-
adjectives greatly, how much?
we've run the calculations. One of the first presentations that we made, we brought numbers in here that showed the benefit of the millions to the town. We can bring those.
Yeah, but I remember we had some dispute over that too, that they
Well,
seem to
if
be
there's-
inflated numbers too.
If there is a better word that is somewhere between equivalent value, offsets and credits and compensation, I would say it's an incentive. And again, those are well within a municipality's authority to bring. This is a unique situation.
I don't argue with you that it's within the authority to do so. There's legally being able to do something, but should we be able to do this because we're subsidizing the developer?
We don't.
You can call it what you want to do, what you call it.
And I suppose you can as well, but using the word subsidizing, that's a pejorative label for something that helps the town and benefits the town and incentivizes the type of growth in housing and benefits that this project will bring.
But, and that's why these guys are here. That's their decision to make on that.
So you can put whatever label you want on it. What we're asking for is what we put into the agreement. They're offsets for expenses that we would otherwise pay the town in connection with this development. They are grandfathering of the prior rates. It's all right there.
I know. I'm just
We've been
making
here
note that's it.
five times, I think, on this agreement, or maybe not five on this agreement, but.
Do you have a dollar value? Can we put it in a dollar value?
We can. I thought we had given you enough information to come up with a pretty close number in that agreement. The dollar amount that we're seeking in terms of a hard number would be equivalent value, offsets or credits for the cost of the sewer line.
But then you also want to be able to go back and have a recapture. So isn't that double dipping?
So a couple things. One, we'll live by ordinance, what is it, 298?
Yes.
Okay, we'll live by that. We're happy with that. There's gonna be very limited ability for meaningful recapture. The line is not long enough. A lot of the people along that line have septics now, so there's probably not even, planning to recover in the near future. We can't get recapture from, I'll go ahead and say their name, Shockey and Bassett, because we have a separate agreement with them for easements. And I would be willing to bet you that with your 5-year cap or sunset on recapture, there's just not gonna be meaningful recapture and not double dipping. But that line will be there for not 5 years, 105 years to benefit the town.
30.
Well,
Maybe 30.
So double dipping was probably a real possibility under the other agreement that's got
Well-
so much attention, but not this one. Not this.
Dale, can I also mention, the recapture wasn't even a thing.
Oh,
That
when we-
that
that's a
showed
good
up
point.
like
Yeah,
a few months.
Yeah.
When we
Yeah,
drafted
we-
this agreement, when we submitted this agreement, we'd never heard of ordinance 219.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you. That's right, I forgot that. Thanks.
but you went in and added it in, though.
Well, we gotta start somewhere.
Well, and that, I'll tell you what, that's on you guys. I mean, you say no, you don't counter, you're not here to solve problems, and I'm sorry to be blunt, but that's what I've gotten, is no, try again. Okay, well, we're just gonna keep putting stuff in there, throw it at the wall and see what sticks. But if you're not, I think you guys wanna solve the problem. I have not heard one single, you don't wanna solve a problem. Or do you? Yes or no?
They're the ones that have to make the decision. I'm just bringing out the issues.
Just so you know, Drew, he works for us, and so basically, we're the ones driving the bus. Now, I don't know what happened before, so we can, but my intention is to get this done. So we will go over these issues that you have with the contract, and we'll get something back to you soon. But
That would be
everyone
greatly appreciated.
everyone on the council has taken a look at our attorney's feedback on this, and we have to use his counsel and take his advice. So from the way it looks to me, there's a lot of things that need to come out of here. So we can send back our revisions, and then you guys can send us something back and just keep this going. But trust me, my intention is to.
And that's not going anywhere. We've already done that, and it's not going anywhere. So so the question comes: what do you want? What are we going to do?
I think I feel from Mr. Sanderson that it would be nice to have a dollar amount in mind when we do this agreement.
Okay.
Because having kind of this rough estimate and all these things built in that eventually could stack up on top of each other, it definitely would be nice to know what we're looking at, so we can sign up for it now and figure out how, we can pay for it.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
We can provide a dollar amount of a cap and not to exceed the threshold, whatever you want.
Because a blank check is not what anyone wants. It's not what we're asking for.
Right.
And if it's
Go ahead.
To me, that's exactly what would make sense. Basically, in my eyes, I'm a very visual and numbers-oriented person. If I can see, okay, here's the line, this is what it cost me, here's, basically a cost-benefit analysis.
Right.
Okay, it costs us $250,000+. We would have spent probably $150,000 going straight on in and over. The difference between that, what we expect coming off to supply the town of Alpine with heads and beds, what will this give us in a 30-year term, yada, yada, yada. I need the numbers, I need to see the tangibles in order to go, yeah, this makes sense. I mean,
I totally agree.
on my behalf, I've liked this project and I want to see it go. Another conversation, I'm extremely concerned when you say there's a 0.1% grade on a 10-inch line of the flow.
When were you made aware of that?
Yeah.
When you.
that's how it was
Designed
designed.
that way.
Okay.
HLE.
Yeah, well, I wonder what the reasoning was behind that.
They were trying to keep the slope as low as possible to extend the line as far as they possibly.
For depth, because you have to have depth.
Because the line could actually be extended farther.
Right.
So that was the thinking, which is not, it's not totally wrong. We just have to have enough water flow to make it work.
Right.
That pipe needs to probably have, what do you think, have to be half full of water? For concrete?
You're still gonna have settling. I was the wastewater collection system manager for a city. It's probably gonna be something that's gonna require ongoing maintenance. It can be dealt with, flush it.
And we did it, I mean, the installation was as good, it was just scrutinized. Well, it was built twice. one section 3 times, and, you know, it was just, that was an unfortunate thing, but you know what? Everyone made it right. It had so many eyes on it that it's not funny, so.
It was stamped, the designs and the as-built was signed, stamped, sealed
Right.
by engineers.
But without knowing where things go in the future, you know, you gotta
Yeah.
keep as much depth as possible,
Yeah.
so.
Makes sense.
So, do you guys think you could give us an analysis? What you have into it, running this line? What you're looking from us? The cost benefit to the town of Alpine over whatever period of time you want to make it. 30 years, whatever. And put in there the potential hookup potential that we're looking at, all that stuff, so we can actually weigh some numbers. And then I think that would be the next step. If you guys can get us that, then we can analyze that, and then we will get with Mr. Sanderson and come back with something that we can sink our teeth into and get this project moving forward.
Okay, so we'll work on that for the extension. And then we have to, you know, does it make more sense to split this up and deal, because we got all that infrastructure inside the property that the town would like to take over too. I think that's an engineering thing, all the main lines.
Right, let's start with that, and then we'll jump into the main lines next. Or whatever you think helps us to move this forward.
Yeah, well, and that's pretty well there, you know, for phase 1, all the easements are written, we've installed everything, it's all passed off, and
Yep.
so, I mean, we're pretty much there on that. Of course,
When's
that's,
your next council meeting?
In 2 weeks.
And then that's the is that the, what's the first? Is that right?
21st.
Do you want this before that meeting, and do you want us to come to that?
Honestly, I mean, I wouldn't say kill yourself trying to get this to it, but if
But if you
that's
can.
doable, then, I can't imagine that we'll have an agreement nailed down by then, but you're more than welcome to try to get that information together if you think you can, and we'll put you on the agenda, and you guys can at least present it at that time, if that makes sense. Or just wait till the next work session, you know, the beginning of March, whatever works for you.
well, it seems like that's what these are for, to get through nitty-gritty details to streamline the meetings, is that the,
Yeah, and see, that's what we're trying to do, is
Yeah.
really hash out a lot of the details at these meetings, and then be able to make a decision at the town council. So,
okay.
if you don't think you can pull it together in the next 2 weeks,
Well, and
Go ahead.
sorry, I definitely stress, knowing the next 2 weeks is action item meeting. So if you get it, if you stress, get it done, and you hand it into us Monday night, or even that weekend.
well, it needs to be before that.
Yeah, I mean,
You really only have probably 10 days to get it
So,
done.
maybe maybe we'll present at the March work session, and, we'll, you know,
March meeting's gonna be the third Tuesday.
we've come this long, so let's not cram it
I
through.
don't have.
Monica, when's the next work
workshop.
session?
21st. Oh, same date, March 21st.
No, it's gotta be before that,
No,
that's the
seven.
town
Oh,
council.
work session, it'll be the,
Work
Seven.
session, 7,
It'll be the same
Seven.
because of February.
February.
first Tuesday of the month.
yeah.
So let's shoot for the 7th.
Okay.
You guys
Can,
get that together. Go ahead, Jim.
I'm sorry, Mayor. There are a couple other uncomfortable things we need to talk about.
Let's do it.
As far as the development standards they're requesting that were in place at the time initial building permit was issued, the building permit fees, I guess that
Oh,
goes
yeah.
into your issue with the other, but those are things that we need to,
Discuss.
drilling the wells, I mean, because that goes completely against town ordinance.
Yeah. We've looked at that.
That was also requested, it's an irrigation well by the town to not,
Yeah.
but, you know.
So we have an ordinance that we knew about, but yeah, we've just recently uncovered that basically we're not allowing anyone, it's not allowed in the town of Alpine to drill irrigation wells. So,
Or any wells.
any wells, yeah.
So we're hearing you say that's a deal killer, so we'll focus on that.
I would suggest that. I mean, it's an ordinance, so we're not gonna, yeah.
I mean, we'd have to go back and change the ordinance, and I guess there's a reason why we had the ordinance in place. But let me make it clear, I don't dislike your project, I'm not trying to stop your project, okay? It's your project. You guys are the investors. You guys are the developers. I just want to see it done right because of the fiasco that we had, and it's not Mr. Cottom's fault. It's just had to do with the situation. And I can say that a lot of this stuff was new to me when it comes before in written form from Dale, as far as whatever promises were made, but it goes back that I just.
Well, and that's all,
Yep.
Okay,
it's in the past, but, you know, we gotta
Okay.
figure out how to,
work around it.
We're kind of setting precedent with this, so we want to do it right, you know?
well, because we're not gonna be, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, we're not gonna be the only, you know, as Alpine grows.
Yep.
Which it's going to, this is gonna be a problem you're gonna run into over and over and over again, so.
We want you guys to be the standard, gold standard for awesome projects in Alpine, and we want to do it right. So, does anyone else have any questions for these guys?
Well, I just wanna say I appreciate that you took so much input from the town, and I apologize that there's not more that we can do. We have to work off hard numbers, and we have to work off what is a benefit to the town first. That's our job. So I just am happy that you were able to come and kind of give us the background and just realize, you know, we can only move forward with you now. We weren't privy to the conversations that were had in the past. We don't want anyone to feel like they were unfairly treated, but especially with the manhole stubs that you took into account and that you did on our request, that we can very much appreciate. So we will have hard deadlines in place. I think it's great that we have a deadline for March, if February is just too quick. So we can start moving this forward, and neither of us are in limbo anymore.
Perfect. Well,
So-
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you coming. Thank you. Yeah, Jose, would you like to say something? Come on up. Oh, I'm sorry, Juan.
Been called worse. I, along with several people here, are residents of Alpine Meadows, which at the north borders the old Alpine Highway.
Right.
For clarity, this is a question for the development team. There's a lot of talk about the sewer line that runs into that development now. Is that the sewer line that connected at the foot of Oatgrass? Oatgrass. Okay. From our understanding and from what we witnessed, there were a couple of occasions where there was trenching done along Old Alpine Highway, completely closing it. And I don't think there was any consideration for the residents of Alpine Meadows for the detouring of the traffic into our development on Foxtail. I mean, the lack of signage. One sign at Wintergreen and Oatgrass that was on a sawhorse with spray painted detour on a piece of pallet.
Yeah.
No respect for signage, children playing, speeding, for people that had to make their way around the development to get to the air park or that side. That happened twice, I think, last year, right? It fell on deaf ears. We, you know, the construction company, whoever that was, had no consideration for the impact that was caused. So I bring that up because we were sort of collateral damage. At least that's how it was viewed. A lot of talk about improper slope to move sewer. If that trenching is going to take place again, we just ask, you know, have some consideration
Yeah.
for the impact.
And, you know, we had all it was all permitted easements, and, I mean, unfortunately, it was kind of a mess, but
Yeah,
that line's done
yeah.
as far as.
Well, it was done once, and then we saw that it was trenched again.
Right.
Sure.
I want to apologize for that. We had the local contractor do this job. We couldn't do the job successfully. We
Right.
hired an out-of-town, I'll call him an owner's rep, to help the town and to help us make sure this guy did it right.
Right,
And they did a lot of things that I want to apologize for. We tried our best to straighten it out.
right.
And it was really unfortunate. This job was above his pay grade.
Yeah, yeah, so,
Sounds
I
like we
mean,
could have done better as well.
you know, there was obviously a lack of communication because the streets got closed off, like, literally overnight.
Not on our part, we communicated.
Well, no.
Alpine
It was a one-way, it was a one-way communication. But the dangers that it posed to the neighborhood by people speeding, because they just wanted to get to where they were going. Can't blame them, right? I mean, I can go on and on, but I think you get the picture. Could it have been managed better by doing a single lane shut-off, you know, and allowing traffic to continue to use Old Alpine Highway instead of detouring it through, you know, a 25 mile per hour neighborhood zone, which we chased people out that were doing 50 plus. Seriously, with children playing. Stop signs were totally ignored, blah, 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 you know.
It's got a lot of lake traffic too, people going down to the bottom.
And this was in the summer, right? Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I know a little bit about construction, having worked with, you know, crews, projects and things like that. First thing that goes up is proper signage, flagging people, blah, blah, blah. None of that. I didn't witness any of
Well,
that.
yeah.
So anyways,
It's on the town, and we need to do better. We need to make sure that we're notifying the neighbors of that happening and basically have to get the proper permitting to do that in the future. So it
Yeah.
sounds like we're all on the same page. We're gonna avoid that in the future,
Yeah.
for sure,
so I think people knew about the issues. We just kind of had to bring it up in this kind of
Yeah.
forum.
Oh, appreciate it,
Okay. Right.
Juan.
Thanks, Mayor, Council. We'll start with Jay.
So, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Dale. Oh, you got one.
Oh.
And thank you
All
for
right,
the
take it home,
large
put it up in my wall.
plans.
We'll kick these guys out so we can move on. But thanks again for coming, you guys. Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Dominique.
I was telling them, don't worry, you guys, I'm not an engineer, so don't be worried that Jorgensen couldn't answer the question about
Yeah.
the slope. I'm a project manager. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna look like a terrible engineer because I'm not one. So, I'm here to talk about the master services agreement that we presented, or I suppose I emailed that to you, Monica, and you passed it on. As well as the fee sheet and the corrected version that I sent you. Yes, I'm so sorry about that with
No
the
problem.
bad formulas in the Excel sheet. So I won't belabor it. I'll just see if you have any questions. Or if you do want any sort of summary.
So I'd love to go over, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
If it'll be, no, it's okay. And this might take longer, so if this is shorter, but I'd like to go over each task. Obviously, we are working off of a unknown budget. So if we could start thinking about priorities, then when we do get to that budgeting process. But even if it's just one or two tasks that we feel are necessary to tackle first.
Yeah.
What's nice is that your proposal is comprehensive and we can opt in, as our budget gets healthier, we find the need,
Yeah.
so.
Let me just make sure we're on the same page, that all these tasks are basically almost like not to exceed.
Yes.
This is your best guess
Yes.
of what your services are going to cost.
Yes.
So any numbers that we see on here are basically your best guess. They're fictitious in a way.
Yes.
And then if we were to ever need to go over those numbers, you would have to get our approval to do that.
Exactly.
And you're only going to do what we ask you to do.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And it's all time and materials. And so even if you're approving a task work order and a specific task on there, it's not that you're going to see that full amount on there. It's just an idea of what we think at this point in time, based on what we understand from the town, that it may take.
Okay, perfect.
Does anyone have any questions on specific task work orders? Okay.
To me, it seems, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It'll only be to Monica, like, someone who looks at the numbers every day.
I was just, thanks for getting the insurance. That's-
Oh, yes, you're welcome. And so I like what Councilwoman Castillo says, which is it's sort of like an opt-in, it's a placeholder. You tell us what we need to do. And, yeah, time and materials not to exceed.
I think this is somewhat outside of what was budgeted for the town in general engineering in the operating budget. The entire annual budget for all professional services, including our attorney and some IT, there's something else in there, and engineering was $60,000 for the year. I think it may have been somewhat under budgeted. There wasn't really any delineation in the documentation for the budget that tells me that this much was for engineering and this much was for this or that. So, it's $60,000. And I think based on some of the things that we're facing, we recognize that we're probably going to go over that. As far as the wastewater treatment plant goes, my struggle right now is that also when budgeting, while there was money budgeted in the general fund for the project, it was budgeted in such a way that it says that we're going to have a capital expenditure for the wastewater treatment plant, in the sewer budget for the treatment plant, and then it says that we're expecting to use so much of our reserves. But there wasn't a capital budget that delineated how those monies for that treatment plant were going to be spent. So, there was a considerable amount of money budgeted by council for the wastewater treatment plant project. I cannot tell you how much of that was engineering. I can tell you that we're paying a lot of engineering bills.
Yes.
That's something that I think Jorgensen is going to be able to just pull together for us. That's one of our hopes, is for them to be able to really outline what's been spent and then move forward with where are we going, because I think that right now that's an unknown for us. We have a lot of educated guesses.
Right.
However, I don't know that we really know what this project will cost us. So one of their things that this project, correct me if I'm wrong, Dominic, but I think we talked about some of this money is actually going to be utilized for them to help us budget appropriately. And so they are going to support the budgeting process so that we get those numbers right. And so as we go through the budget, that's when council recognizes how much money we have, and they look at what each priority is gonna cost, and then they determine based on, how much money we have, where our priorities really lie, and how we move forward. And so that
Monica, I'm sorry
shifts.
to interrupt.
Yeah.
We may have some more money for engineering in the water fund, like budgeted? Is that what?
No, so there is a capital expenditures budgeted. I don't know how much of that was engineering for the wastewater treatment plant. I don't know how much of that was engineering for the water department, and nor do I know how much of that may have been engineering in the general fund. So when we shift into budget season, which is going to come up really quickly, one of the things that I suggest is not only will we do operating budgets for all three funds, we will also do capital budgets for each project within that fund. That's how I've done it historically in the past, and it's pretty effective. And then you just track those line items even against your own project. And granted, budgets are budgets. They're not set in stone. They're an educated best guess of what we think we're going to face throughout the year. There will be things give and take throughout a year, but I feel like we just need to know where our target is, because it's a challenge to even understand if we're where we're at
we are.
against it, because I don't know what was budgeted for those things in projects. I know in the general fund, in the operating budget, and I can tell you that our operating budget in the general fund with some of the tasks that we're gonna be doing, it's probably a little shy. So, but there is monies that we can probably shift to take care of that. You know, there's definitely money.
And this 137.1, is this through our fiscal year? So this is through July, or June 31st?
Yes, exactly. But I think some things to talk about are priorities. You know, that's a high number, but that covers master plan update and being on the steering committee. That covers general construction oversight if that's what you choose. And so the opt-in, I think, is important because as you set priorities, and I know that June 30th is also coming up very quickly, and so, you know, we're going to have to stay pretty fluid. But again, that is not the number that you will pay. That is just our best guess if you were to opt into all of those tasks. And one other thing I want to say to Monica's point is that just the reporting, the engineers' reports that I'll be doing at the town council meetings, you know, where are we in the project and what % of the budget have we spent, so that you're keeping track of things as we go month to month, so there's no surprises.
That's gonna be really helpful. So, yeah, we'll kind of have a year-to-date always, but
Yeah, yeah.
does anyone else
So
have
looking
that?
at the task, did anyone have any opinions on, I know they're in-depth and there's a lot of them, but just out of curiosity.
So I could tell you that task 1 is not optional.
Yeah, that's very true. That's right. There's no opting in with
There is
task
no
1, which
opting
is
in
the
with task one.
level 4 wastewater
Yes.
operator. That has to be. Yep, that's true.
I mean, all of the wastewater items are top priority.
Yes,
Yep.
For sure.
But
yeah.
the wastewater can go into your enterprise fund as far as the sewer department, correct? So you can
Yeah.
have a separate, so our fees should be paying.
Yeah, I think we have
Yes.
the money someplace in our,
The no problem fund.
yes, I think we have a place for that, but
Okay.
I think Monica, correct me if I'm wrong, it'd be really hard to track what we spent year-to-date in this fiscal year, or is that?
I mean,
possible?
I can tell you what checks have been written, and I can tell you what I've written them to. I can't tell you what that is against the budget.
Because we don't know the budget.
That's a problem, because professional services are lumped together in such a way that they're intermingled. So, and when budgeting, there is some notes in the budget along, you know, the notes section. It doesn't say 10,000 for engineering, 10,000 for attorney, 10,000 for it doesn't say that. So it's all up for interpretation. And yeah, and we're already spending more than was budgeted prior to this. Now, there is also capital projects, again, where you see capital expenditures, grant monies anticipated to be received, and then prior year reserve fund balances being spent per the budget. Again, I don't know how much of that's construction. I don't know how much of that is engineering. I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna
And there-
break that all down in
But
our
it, but, you
budgeting
know,
process.
I do, but I mean, honestly, we're excited about, we've been having a lot of internal conversations. We're excited about next year, because the budget process is gonna be completely different. It's probably gonna be a little painful, but we'll get through it. We'll do the best we can. And next year is gonna be so much better.
So much
A
better.
year from now,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Well, another one that's essential is the pretreatment plant.
Yes.
But the grant, if I'm not mistaken, is gonna pay for a fair amount of that engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, that,
The question is, does the grant limit how much you can have in engineering fees?
Oh,
I don't think that's the case, but
Okay.
I haven't
I
looked
just-
into
No,
that.
but that's a
seen
good
grants that-
question.
Yeah,
There, some of it's construction, some of it is non-construction related.
Right.
We did just submit a payment request. Christine submitted a
Right.
payment request that, honestly, she handed it to me today. I put it in your packet for our council meeting, because
Okay.
it does need the council's approval. So, but, and the majority of that is engineering. There is a payment to Cambrian as well for some equipment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Jim, do you have any questions on this agreement?
No, I think it's just, I didn't go through the services rates. I
No,
looked at
you
the
looked at the
agreement.
legalese.
The agreement was fine, you have your, it has what it
Good.
needs, so we're,
Okay.
You had no revisions?
I don't have any revisions to it.
Okay.
It's basically
Dominique.
just a.
Whoa, Dominique. I'm glad you put those.
If you drafted this, please don't take this as offense. It's a boilerplate agreement. It's,
I was just about to say, like, I can take.
yeah.
Dominique, you might
Very
be on the
little
wrong line
credit.
of work if there's no
No,
revision.
it's, I've seen.
It's been through the
very
runner,
similar.
yeah, that's
Okay.
exactly
Yeah,
it,
so
but,
no, I don't have a problem.
Okay,
okay.
I guess the action item would be that we would approve the agreement
Okay.
next time.
Right.
Okay.
so we can put that for the town council meetings? Okay,
Add it to the agenda.
okay,
And grant the mayor authority. to
yeah.
sign.
Okay.
Good, well, it sounds like, just from the conversations Dominique and I have had, there's gonna be a lot of accountability,
lost my agenda.
especially since, when we talked about this, there is a transition period with our current engineer.
Yep.
So ultimately, another one of the goals for the priorities is to cut that transition period, cut that budget. It's at a very high rate. We also talked about increasing accountability for pre-approval hours, so that people aren't just billing endless hours. We're working on a tight budget, so I just wanna say I appreciate that, and that the communication will be high, but ultimately, we're just trying to get as many engineering documents in as quickly as we can. People have taken a lot of time, they've taken years to submit some of these, so hopefully, the town council, the town can be adding some pressure with getting those documents in time, and I know that you and Jorgensen have been working really hard to put pressure as well.
Yeah.
So that we as a town don't lose any money and don't have to pay more than what we have to. We'd rather give that money to Jorgensen and start some new projects.
Will work for you guys. One thing I'll say is just have a little patience during the transition, since the agreement won't be signed until the end of the month. You'll still be, getting bills from the former engineer, and until we can get, that agreement signed and our subconsultant agreement signed, so that we're bringing in all the invoices and making sure that everything looks good, you'll probably just, there's still gonna be a few more weeks of, getting invoices from
Okay.
different people.
This may be a dumb question, but will you be getting their work product transferred over so we're not doubling up on things?
Well, we definitely don't want to double up. There's been a lot of discussions, especially where the wastewater treatment plant is concerned. Because we are so close to the end of this engineering and plan design, we're going to keep Baba Blondie on because he is the engineer of record. It would be too much risk, and we would be doubling up of efforts to be taking those over. So,
Especially if, like you said, unfortunately, they're at 90%.
Yep.
So we can't have somebody else, they'd have to start all over.
right, exactly. Let's stay on schedule. Let's see that through to the end.
Just to
Yeah.
answer your question as well, we have a meeting at the end of this month with a list of all the engineering efforts that have been in the works. Any level of engineering, from water to roads to, sewer, the whole thing. And so we're actively trying to figure out the transition on all these items. And Bob definitely has all the information, so we're trying to,
Okay,
Get it
pull
from him.
pull all the information from him, and then make sure they have the information from the transition. So we're actively doing that now.
and what I was kind of referring to is projects that we've done that they still have, like,
We're waiting.
as-built that we may not have, because I've seen this happen. And then you double up on, do you see what I'm saying? At least have some sort of way to get at their files.
Well, you're the client, or the town would be
we
the
can-
client,
I'm
so
pretty sure we
those,
can
you would
request
own
whatever.
those.
And we'll make
Right,
sure at that
but-
meeting, Dominique, just make sure that I remember, but we need to make sure that we get all.
You're
the
right, though.
information we need.
That's a good point.
No,
Let's
that's
do
a
it
great
now.
question.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this isn't a separate topic, but are we still waiting on, the documentation from Bob for our master capacity levels? Cause I know annexation is something that we're discussing, and Christine doesn't have the information we need as a town to make any educated decisions.
It's one of the issues I think I brought up when we
Yeah.
talked, is that we need to see if we can, if the water model.
Cause he should
modeling
have,
would be
And
one
you-
should have all of those.
It's,
Mayor
I will
just
tell you,
sent
it's
me-
not complete.
Okay.
So, to do that is a pretty big engineering effort.
Okay.
And so from what I've been told, Dominique, is that we can get grant funding, or there's funding available to help us finalize that model.
Okay.
And then we have it, like the GIS,
Mm-hmm.
basically you can pull up and look at, you know,
All of it.
all of it.
Awesome.
And that's our goal, because that's the only way we can
Move
really
forward.
efficiently move forward
Yeah.
and know.
Instead of piecemealing it
Exactly.
and, yeah,
So that's
which is
our
where we're
goal.
at right now. Yep.
But
Great.
Bob's not gonna have the full model, but he definitely will pass over what he has.
Good, you can take it over from there.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does anyone else have any questions for Dominique? Go ahead, Shay, please.
I just wanted to kind of address the Baba Blondie issue. I feel like we've got some half-truths going. We were told back in November that the water treatment equipment was showing up. We needed a platform, it was gonna show up. Now it sounds like Bob didn't really finish the project, it was only 90% done. I'm also concerned, why would we be continuing to pay Bob? I think at this point, if anything, it should be a pro bono project for him to do for the town. I think if we added up what Bob has billed Alpine over the last 3 years, I can't even imagine what it's at. And that was for a 100% completed project that we're about to lose. The business council is over us, Cambrian is over us. I just don't understand, I don't even know what the transition period is, but I think we have kind of been left with, let's just keep paying Bob. If Bob's name is on it, we just keep paying him. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do we draw a line in the sand with him that the time has come? It's 3 years. 3 years. And I don't want to go into another summer of Riverview Meadows smelling like an outhouse, and the 10% he owes of information to whether it's the town or to Cambrian, that we're just left holding the bag and he just keeps billing. And so I think that's, I know Councilman Castillo brought it up, but yeah, like, do we have a cap on his hours? Why is it $225 an hour? Is there anyone that could speak to him and say, hey, Bob, we've given you 3 years of engineering on this project. Can you do this transition as a donation to Alpine? At least, I know that's probably not how the world works, but I think in this case, we have a very broken process. And I am just thrilled that Jorgensen is going to take over and is coming in the door. So just wanted to share that.
Thanks, Shay. I think, to speak to that, if we were just to cut bait on with Bob, Dominique, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it would cost half again as much for us to get up to speed. And basically, we have to finish the project, like, as,
And so he asked it.
yeah,
No one else will finalize the drawings and stamp them at this point without really starting over. And we even went back to Cambrian because they usually, this is their bread and butter. And we
Right.
said, what do you say? And they said, no way. Not only because that ship has sailed, you could have done this forever ago. We don't know why you didn't, but also the risk. And you know how it is. It's a world where everybody's so worried about liability. He is going to deliver a good engineering product, but for Cambrian to instead take those drawings and stamp them themselves, it would be so expensive for the town. So hopefully deadlines, yes, are very
Oh, yeah.
steadfast.
that's why we're pushing so hard, yeah.
Here we go, 2 years later.
I know. No, we appreciate that. Yep,
Okay.
It's a good point.
yep.
Duly noted, for sure.
Okay.
We appreciate it as a neighborhood.
By the way, Shay, to speak to the smell problem, I live in that same neighborhood, but we do have, they've purchased the charcoal filters, and,
I saw that.
yeah, so basically, this, at some point,
That should help.
no, it'll happen soon. And that's part of our meeting on the 23rd, is to figure out the timing when that can happen. But that's in motion, so we don't want you to have to deal with that again. So thanks, Dominique. Does anyone else have any questions for Dominique? Okay. Let's talk annexation and True Grit. We haven't talked about that much lately, have we?
I'm True Grit here.
No, we've been, it's been.
Is anyone from True Grit here?
They weren't voted. You guys just wanted to talk about it?
We did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
What-
think
let's
I
talk.
put it on there, sorry. We're gonna talk about
Well,
it.
Ms. Castillo, let's.
Yes, let me get to our legal counsel's input as well, which I believe it's on here. So really, the discussion, in fact, Monica, did you happen to print, Sanderson's input for that
It
on the
was-
memo?
It was on
Oh,
top,
I'm
but that's
sorry, I have
okay.
it right
You
in
have
front
it?
of me.
I can read it to you.
Yes, I do.
Here.
Yes, it's- Thank you. So I, for what it's worth, completely agree with your assessment. I think that, in my opinion, and please let me jump in, because you don't have hard numbers for capacity, and Christine's putting a list together of will serve letters versus development agreements to give us a better idea of what we would be acquiescing to. It's not a matter of do we like annexation or not, it's just more, we have to look at, can we even handle this type of capacity? Who have we already committed to? As she had said, you really want to, I'll use Cobblestone Hotel as an example. You want an assessment of if it was full to capacity and everybody had their shower on and everybody was flushing their toilet, could the town handle a fire? Could we handle an emergency? So those are questions that I think are still up in the air, and I think we need to get those, just a much better idea of what we're working with before we agree to an annexation.
But if we don't annex them, they can do whatever they want with the county. And then we have no say.
Right.
So it's better to get them annexed first.
Except if we can't handle their capacity.
Well, we don't have to approve what they're doing necessarily. If it
Right.
falls into the building code and into what we have in place, then we approve it. But if it doesn't, then we don't. So,
I think I'm no engineer, but I think it's highly unlikely that we can't take their, whatever they could
Capacity.
throw at us right now. I mean, the sewer plant's running at 30%.
Right.
And yes, we have other things that are coming online, but the pretreatment plant is even gonna help with that, right? So then it comes down to water. I haven't heard any of our engineers or town staff say that we have a shortage of water. Do you guys agree?
No, and in actuality, Bob did respond. I think he got the remainder of the information to Cobblestone
Yep.
today.
Okay.
And so there was some things in the model that he had to run in order to meet the requirements for DEQ and the information they wanted. The truth is, he even shut off the tank and had plenty of water.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Town has plenty.
Yeah, so that's not an issue. Do we, in-house staff, have the information about how much capacity? The answer's no, but I think we have sufficient capacity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
But at what point we won't, we don't
Right.
know. But I think that's a
Definitely
process.
Going forward, we wanna know that.
We want to know.
But I think right now, we,
Have enough information to make this annexation.
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think we're pretty good on that. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead. Do you mind coming up? We want the people at home to be able to,
By the way, for the live stream, you guys should show pictures too.
we are doing that, by the way, yes.
We were all at home, like, I can't see the pictures.
Well, we did that just to get you here. But go ahead.
Mr. President. Question is going to be, the thing that we were just talking about, Alpine Flats, is that already factored into the capacity calculation? I know you guys said we have tons of water and stuff, but if we start putting in a whole bunch of high-density stuff, which we don't even know what True Grit wants to do yet, right?
Right.
But if we start putting a lot more of those things on that side of town, and there's already issues with that sewer, have we thought about that as part of the calculation? I know that we're still a bit in limbo with those guys, but Just wanted to throw that out there.
I think, yes, thank you. That definitely is going into the calculation, so.
Oh, and the fact we don't know what they want to do with it.
Right, it's tough, but, I mean, I think they're taking into consideration the development, like, everything towards the tiny home village, and, you know, the potential capacity of that, they're taking that into consideration as well, because, you know, we've got the mega well over there, we've got all what is the sewer plant that we bought with? North Star, yeah, so all that is going into the calculation, so I think we're pretty safe there.
We can survive a Super Bowl flush.
Yes, go ahead.
Heather Goodrich, Alpine Meadows.
I have.
I apologize if you talked about this last meeting, I wasn't here, but I'm just curious specifically about, I know the first meeting with True Grit, they talked about putting in a road through Alpine Meadows that would just be the emergency access road. I don't see where else you're gonna put a road to access, you know, emergency access that piece of land except for through our property. So, or our subdivision, sorry, I shouldn't say our property, we are part of the town now. So have you talked about that, and when does that conversation happen? Because I think that's one of our chief concerns, is a potential road.
Well, I haven't had that discussion with anybody. Do you guys know anything about that?
Just that it was been talked about, but again, they don't have.
So that's all gonna happen after annexation, and to your
Well,
point, it's better that we're in control of it.
The talk is.
Because they've been
gonna
annexed.
Happen after, not the.
Right.
Yeah, that's why, in my opinion, the whole, us bringing it into our fold, so we can
Right.
be like, so you guys can actually really have a voice, than the county,
Okay.
you know, where.
We'll just know that that is a real concern that we have, and we're gonna be on that, and we're gonna be definitely watching this annexation or this development specifically for that piece. We don't want a ton of traffic increase through our subdivision.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
And I think you guys,
There,
well, there's a utility.
there's a utility easement.
Utility easement on,
We would drive in off of County Road 100, but are you guys saying that's just utility? Because it was used.
no, they're talking about within the subdivision, someone could,
There's a
they
lot
could
within
buy a
the
lot. They could buy a lot and then use that as their
That's what
emergency
they were
access.
talking about doing.
Well, and they
But
had
I
did
do-
they purchase the lot?
As far as, I can't confirm it.
Right.
But hearsay is that they.
They did purchase it, right,
Yeah.
okay, because I thought that's what I had heard.
Okay, but another thing
Which would
is,
be, but that would fall on you guys, because
think
you're the HOA and you have more control.
you guys hold all the cards as far as that,
Yeah.
Okay.
from what I would understand.
Yeah.
Is that any access would have to get approved through your subdivision,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. So before Juan takes,
Well, it sounds like I need to be removed, so.
I also,
He might be available.
yeah, we like you.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to say before Juan literally talks over me, that I appreciate the changes that are happening, and I appreciate your, you know, kind of keeping an eye on things and being fiscally conservative, and like the questions about whether we're going to call it subsidizing or not. Like, I want to make sure that, you know, it is a cost benefit analysis for me as a taxpayer. If we're going to pay for their
Right.
sewer, then I better be getting something out of it, because I'm not lining the pockets of a developer. Now, if it is good for them and good for the town, I don't have a problem with that. So I appreciate you asking those questions to make sure that it is a mutually beneficial relationship. So thank you, guys.
Yep.
Okay, Jose.
Come on, geez, you're his wife.
And that's why Jose, Jorge, Juan.
I apologize.
No, so, going back to access to those 8 acres that are being
Yep.
developed, at the first reading, this was before the new administration took over. This was at the December reading. I think in good faith, the representatives of the developer that were on the phone said that there would be meetings with the neighborhood once their plans were disclosed, and that they would try, in good faith, everything to not impact the neighborhood, and that they would look at alternatives, right, for that emergency road, because right now the 60-foot easement comes off Old Highway 101, yeah, Old Alpine Highway, thinking another place here. But anyways, yeah, so
Do you
we'll see.
Are they required to have an emergency?
They said they were, I don't.
I think they would have.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's,
To only have the one,
For EMS, fire,
right, but who's requiring it is the question.
it would be the state would be my guess.
Do you know how far apart those roads have to be? That was one question I had, because
For
there are a couple other
exit.
potential options of, just like if they're paralleling each other, you know, like how, is there a certain amount that those roads have to be apart?
State fire marshal would,
That's my,
that-
yeah,
that'd
that's
be,
one
that'd
thing
be
I
there.
have.
Because from my time on the fire board, I mean, there's only a certain amount that, I mean, he's gonna be in the town, but even the fire chief, I remember discussions where they only had one entrance, and he was highly recommending that they put in a second entrance, cause they couldn't even get a fire truck to make the turn, sort of thing. And they pushed back like, you know, we're not required to do that. So I think we need to understand what the requirements are and make sure we're holding them to that standard, so.
We're potentially putting a lot more strain on Old Alpine Road here, right? So let's assume that if they don't go through our neighborhood, and hopefully with our new lawyer, they won't have any chance of going through our neighborhood. But Old Alpine Road is just gonna become even more busy if we're gonna have any sort of density built over in that area.
Right.
And I can't tell, but from the picture that we have of the Alpine Flats, it might be possible for those people to also cruise through from Alpine Road to get to the backside of their property? Is that true?
Well, I don't know, just for clarification, when you say Old Alpine Road, are you talking Highway 100?
Yeah, it just heads out to the
Okay,
airport.
not the actual neighborhood of Old Alpine.
Oh, sorry, no, the
Okay,
road.
okay, just so we're
Yep.
talking apples to apples.
So it really seems like we're putting quite a bit of strain, and if we ever do have another incident like the
Yeah.
Well, you've had a lot over there. Oh, yeah, yeah.
The sewer line, again, it sounds like that thing's gonna be an ongoing problem
Yeah.
perhaps. It doesn't sound like that's nailed by any
Well,
stretch
yeah,
of the imagination.
in the future, I mean, you would have just one lane going, you know, if it was done properly, you know, we're gonna avoid that in the future. So, you know, I guess don't hold your hat on that one, but, we're gonna try to make that better. You know, they own the property, their intention is to develop it. We just wanna make sure it's done
Right.
the right way. They could benefit your neighborhood, our neighborhood, the whole town. So I think we're taking the right steps, so.
Does the town have control over the density?
Yes,
What is that density for an 8 acre?
Oh, per.
if they were to come in it's mixed use for
Yeah. it's
MRC,
mixed
right?
use, yeah.
So,
That's,
but it's laid out in our land use development code.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we're guessing MRC, but
Yeah.
it all depends what they,
Right.
What they're pushing for, whatever. I mean, it's unlikely it's gonna be commercial. If you wanna look at the land use development code, I definitely encourage it.
Christine said she was gonna double check and look it up, so feel free to reach out to her, and we would love the answer to that as well. Cause I think when I spoke with her, I wanna say she said 8 units per acre, but somebody had borrowed her land use development code binder, so
Okay.
please follow up with that. We'll find out too. Jim, you had said, I'll just read this out. The problem with not allowing annexation is lack of full control over the development of the property. Should the developer seek to obtain approval for their projects through Lincoln County, the town would have some input, but our control is limited.
Well, if it's within a mile of the town,
Right.
the county has to give us notice, and, you know, generally the county says, hey, you have notice, you've got to get approval from the town or input from the town. Now, they don't always have to follow our input, so that's the problem. Sometimes, you know, sometimes they have, and sometimes they have not. So that's the pig in the poke, I guess, with this one. So we don't know what they would do if we just left it in the county. So it is that advantageous, but I mean, as my recollection goes from the meeting last week, there were so many holes in the plan that I don't know how we could say, sure, come on into the town. I guess at that point, once they're in the town, then we can control what they're doing, but I'd kind of like to have a little bit of knowledge of what their intent is before we say, hey, sure, come in.
Yeah.
So,
Does anybody have any ideas as to why they wouldn't just say, no, we don't want to be part of the town? Is it just the sewer that they're really interested in, sewer matter?
I would never speculate. Honestly, just, I wouldn't,
Yeah.
it does nobody any good to say, what were they thinking? Where they're not here, and it's too bad.
Yeah, they haven't communicated it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's concerning, isn't it?
They seem like they're very interested in being a part of the town, and it seems like, well, why wouldn't you just, if you don't like our rules, why wouldn't you just not be a part of the town? So,
From the town standpoint, we'll take their revenue too,
So just
right?
to be
And their
clear,
hookups.
they, every time that we've had an official meeting, a council meeting, they have been in attendance via phone. They were actually gonna fly here. However, weather prevented him to do so
Yeah.
each time. I did not reach out to them because this was a more, work sessions are a little more casual, there's no official decisions, and there was a lot of information provided to myself, and then provided to the council about the public's, just some of your questions and concerns, and I just feel like it was a forum to be able to just have a conversation. So, but if we have specific questions for them, I'd be happy to reach out to them and then let you know the answer. But in truth, I didn't invite them. And it wasn't to be offensive, it was just,
Right,
Yeah,
right.
we
It
never
was
know
kind of
what
a, like, we just wanted to discuss it.
just discuss
Yeah.
the process, yeah.
And take your feedback and everything, so,
These work groups are refreshing, just to kind of
yep,
get up to speed on stuff without just sitting here and then hearing,
a vote and then,
hearing
right,
you vote on.
yeah.
So, but I think they're pretty clear on our concerns, density
Yeah.
and access.
Yep,
And I will say that Christine also did reach out to them in gathering her information for council about this issue. And he again explained that he does not have the answers about what they're putting in there. They're doing a marketing study. It's a very long process. And they're trying to determine what best fits with this area. Once they have the market study complete, that they believe will be sometime in February, they will meet as a group to decide the best plan moving forward, and then they plan on coming to the town and also having a meeting with the neighbors. So
Okay.
they've been very consistent on that as well.
yep. Yeah, I think we want them in the town, so, I think they've been open, so, yeah, we just need to,
Yeah, so the third reading will be on the agenda on the 21st
right,
of the ordinance.
okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Will you vote?
That's
Will
the
you vote at that meeting? You have to
In 2 weeks, yep, we'll vote on the third reading for the annexation. So, all right. Next thing is, we wanted to talk about storage solutions for the town, because we're like busting at the seams. And one of the things that came up is kind of as a, I guess it would be a semi-permanent solution, would be to get a Connex, like 40-foot.
For the town?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, for example, we had the casino night. Well, that, not the roulette table, the craps table is just sitting in the closet over at the Civic Center, and we don't have room to put like, you know, the volleyball nets or whatever. And so, and there's all the other kind of winter stuff that's sitting in the garage over there, and we need someplace to put it. And we talked about putting it in the old sewer. And yeah, I don't know if that's the best place, but we got a quote on one of those Connex, it's a used one, and what we would potentially do is put it down kind of by the shop, the current shop, and, I mean, I'd like to put some bushes behind it or around it or whatever, but, honestly, our alternative is to rent, like, storage, start doing that.
So Mayor, if you read my memo, just cross through that, because I thought somebody was coming in to do I had no idea, I just saw the picture, and I thought they were wanting to do storage units, these things, and I'm like,
No.
oh!
Yeah, we're just looking
Okay.
to buy one of them to put some stuff in.
I had no idea, and
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, I should have called and
No.
asked, but
I loved it.
I added all kinds of
Sorry you spent your time on that.
colorful language.
Truck stop.
So I just wanted to get everyone's thoughts on that. Did we have a picture of it, or you guys have seen a picture
She
of it? right?
emailed us
Okay.
a picture, yeah, with the quote.
I mean, do you have any concerns?
I do. I mean, we built a brand-new maintenance facility that has a lot of room. We have an old
Where?
maintenance facility.
No, we don't have extra storage in that. We've like
That's
busting at the seam there.
filled with capacity, and then the old maintenance, we've got the civic center with, we're calling the open area next to Dan's office.
That's where we have a lot of stuff in.
How much stuff, I'm just like, how much stuff do we have that we need to right now spend more money when we're looking at, we're already behind budget? And how important is it, how important is a craps table that we use once a year? I mean, I'm having a little anxiety spending more money.
Yeah. Well,
When we do have other buildings and space.
yeah. So this came up because I took a tour with Dan in all the buildings, and we're like busting at the seams. Everywhere you see stuff. For example, someone gave us those big candy canes, like wooden cutout candy canes, and
For Santa.
yeah, all that Santa stuff. And they're just sitting over there in the garage up against the wall, and it's right where we have a skid steer that pulls in and out. So every time it snow blows, it's bringing in all the water, and it seeps up underneath these things that were donated to the town, the candy canes, the wooden candy canes. Up above where, we have things stored over there that probably shouldn't be stored over there. They need their own home. The craps table, I think there's lots of other things.
Is it something that can wait until we hear, because part of the,
Master
not the master plan, part of the sports park,
Oh.
in there
Oh.
is a shelter and a storage unit for the upper section. So if we are
Had to
gracious,
reconnoiter some
are
things.
lucky enough to receive that $650,000 grant, then we can kind of maybe
Move some
play with
stuff
the
around.
numbers. Plus, we have, what are we in, February? We've got 5 more months to the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
The new Craig report coming out, and hopefully, since the state's flush with money, our allotment is gonna get bumped up.
Yeah, hopefully that will.
Just a little,
Yeah.
while we're kind of freaking out over engineering, I'd much rather, whatever it's gonna cost us
Yeah.
for storage, I'd rather go engineering, because God knows we need better engineering.
Yeah.
And I haven't even gone on that tangent.
Monica, what was it, 4,500?
4,500.
What?
It was 4,500, and we
What,
would,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Connex.
small
I feel like it was
potatoes, but
6.
Small
It was
potatoes add up.
4,450, but then
Was it?
I think that was
And
taking
Econox
into
looks pretty
account the
damn well.
$1,000 delivery.
Well, here's another-
Might not have.
Yep.
Because
Okay.
Might be more of a
Afton is
delivery.
prohibiting these things. that
Right.
People are having to empty theirs and kick
And
them
remove
out.
them.
You may want to
I-
talk to whoever's in Afton and see who's got to have theirs kicked out.
I mean, that's a good point, because I don't want to set a precedent that they're like, oh, the town does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but at least if you had a temporary, and I guess the thing of it is I don't think we have anything in our ordinances as far as prohibiting. Afton did have,
Right.
and then they forgot about it, and then
They started popping up.
it started popping up everywhere. And then some of the people got, like my mother, got upset, and so they went back, and now they're kicking them out.
Yeah.
And so it may be you just call the administrator up there and say, hey, who's getting theirs kicked out? And we put a call in.
No, that's a good point. I mean, we're just trying to figure out,
Oh, I
in
understand.
a perfect world, we'd have like 2 of those shops, especially if we're like in the next 7 years gonna have to be plowing this road out there. We're gonna need facilities galore. And if we're gonna do that, then we should plan some more storage for sure.
And
But this was like a temporary solution, and I'm glad we talked about it, because I wanted your input on that. I wasn't gonna do anything, but I just thought,
sorry.
Another thing
And
we
as far
can
as
do.
I was just gonna say, the Connex, I mean, people complain about color schemes, let
Yeah.
alone a conics. With that, I wouldn't wanna set a precedent of, even though it's not in the ordinances, it's just like,
Well, then
Right.
we'd have to pay to beautify it.
Yeah, we'd have to paint it,
yeah.
spend
Well,
more money.
and what about, maybe we should have a surplus property sale. Is there stuff that we're storing that we
See, I
don't
think there's
need?
stuff that we can get rid of. I
Yeah.
know there's stuff in the garage. There's paperwork that we've had it beyond the years, we need to retain it.
There's like
Right.
old
There's old
laptops or
computers.
old
Yeah.
screens and
Yeah,
stuff.
there's all sorts of stuff I think we could get rid of. and
Well,
make
and I know the
space.
Easter stuff, a lot of that with our rec board is gonna be
Oh, yeah, that can
moved
all go
out,
over
so that
recycling
makes some
centers.
space.
So I think
Yeah.
the first step would be to like try to go building
Clear
by
everything
building.
out.
Inventory,
It's a great idea.
that we don't
Yeah.
need.
See
Okay,
what we
well,
even
maybe
have
we'll
to
do that in
keep.
the off-season
Okay.
when they're not done, or busy plowing and everything, you
Yeah.
come up with a plan.
Yeah.
Yes?
Have you thought about having a garage sale, or maybe some of the residents might want some of that?
That's what we were just
Yeah, that's a
suggesting.
great idea.
You'd save
Have it over here, and then you get more money.
Get a couple
Right.
dollars out of it.
See,
As long as it doesn't end up on their side yard or the driveway.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right?
Yeah, let's come up with a plan.
Relocate.
Shay,
I just was gonna ask if I can do my Parks and Rec before your liaison, so I can get home to kiddo,
yes, please.
if that's all right.
Are we done with storage? Yes, I think we can put that to bed for
Okay,
now.
okay.
I don't know why Parks and Rec isn't on here, but we want to hear from you, so please.
Okay, and I apologize, I thought we were supposed to speak, so that's why I came.
No, please.
Okay, I'll just give you guys a quick.
Yes.
update. I guess we were on the workshop for Parks and Rec. So we met last week, we, elected our official board. I think Kathy will get you that, or Manta. And then we did a calendar, so don't laugh, it's very rough. But what we came up with is we're trying to add events to the year. You guys probably can't even read this. But I'll just kind of go over it and then let you guys know where we're headed. So we are gonna try to have a sled and skate event every month in winter, so that whether, it doesn't have to be hosted with hot cocoa, but just we want community to start getting together. So kids are sledding together, they're skating together, and people start to feel like they're part of just more community. The other thing we were working on is we are trying Easter. We talked to Thane, Star Valley Ranch, and Afton. All the towns agreed, 10 a.m. on Saturday, so that all Alpine kiddos go to Alpine, and all Afton kiddos stay in Afton.
It sounds
So-
like they were starting in Afton, going to.
And they were,
Hidden.
yeah. So this way then our kids are cared for. So that we will work on that, and then we're gonna start on that dynamic. Then what we are hoping, and we'll have to chat about your grant and stuff, but we would love to do like a skate park pump track once a month in the summer. So that like whether we could get someone to help do a skate clinic or something that just lets the kids, again, come together on a certain day and get to know each other. Then, mountain days, we're ready to do a dunk tank, adult kickball. Oh, also on town cleanup, we want to work with Top of the Rockies and do whatever we can as far Parks and Rec and help with that. Then my big dream is, like Music on Main and Driggs, I want to do, or our Parks and Rec would love to do a concert series. So I've reached out to 4 bands, and again, we've got to get sponsorship. They're, as lovely as they are, they can't donate their time. But we're thinking twice in July, twice in August. We would hold it hopefully at the gazebo versus the ball field, just to test the waters. And Mayor Green brought up a good idea. Then the gazebo is coverage if there was rain or weather. And then this way, as people are driving by, hopefully we would get a larger crowd.
They can't miss it. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the farmer's market.
Yeah.
Like people stop just to see what's up.
So the main thing that's kind of what we're navigating is, Thursday is Driggs. We don't want to rain on their parade. Can the bands do Wednesday? We don't want to overlap with any other
Plus
events.
farmers market's on Thursday, so.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
That too.
Wednesday'd be a good day, I think.
Yeah, so Wednesday or Sunday were kind of the 2 dates that I was getting feedback that might work. But that's that, and then we would do hopefully our Oktoberfest again with Melvin, and that's kind of it. So we just wanted to let you guys know, we're working on plans. We will do our best to bring more events to the town.
Thank you so much. You guys
No
are doing a
problem.
great job getting everything
Slowly
dialed
but
in.
surely.
And we're still gonna kind of work on, a policy for the Civic Center.
Yes.
Right, and
Yes,
just kind of,
and Monica sent us information on insurance and such, and so there's just a little bit of research that we've got to do, and just as far as parental overseeing and things like that, but what we're hoping is we could have a basketball day on Friday, or when there's no school, that the kids have something to do, and then on nights, if we picked a couple nights, they could have volleyball, basketball. We just feel like this end of the valley, nothing is close. And we also, and I want to bring this up, last point, Kathy is meeting with Rebecca Hutchinson at Thane Rec. So what we're going to do is team up. There's not enough kids to have two different rec programs, but if we can practice on the Alpine ball fields and we have Alpine teams that play in Thane Rec, then parents who commute aren't driving 20 more miles for practice. Is it? Okay, okay. Okay, so that's a good thing. So I think we just want to mainly make sure.
We need to take it to the next level, because I don't think.
Well, and I think that's where Thane,
Yeah.
we really want to pick Rebecca's brain of what works for open gym and such. And then the last point, 4th of July, I know you guys will figure it out, but Thane is having theirs at 10. So if we could get all those school kiddos that are in band or dance to come here, maybe at noon
Yeah,
or
we'd
1
love to get
o'clock.
the school band,
Yeah.
I can't remember the.
Brave Cadets.
Brave Cadets.
And a few others
and-
to come
and,
down.
Have, just
Yeah.
try to make it the next level up, yeah, so anyway.
Just a little bit bigger parade.
Yeah, every year we're just gonna try to ramp it up, but.
So,
Thank you,
no problem.
sorry we're running so late.
That's
Sorry
okay.
we took
I just
you.
wanted you to-
We should have had you at the very
Thank you
top,
so
I'm
much,
sorry,
Shane.
Shane.
Mayor, while
yes.
we're there,
Yep.
I think as far as the ordinance, I do have changes ready, but let me just throw them out.
Okay,
So you want a staggered board,
yes,
and the way I set it up was 2 positions at 5 years, 2 positions at 3 years, 1 position at 1. If you like that, that's fine. If you don't, let me know. And
yeah, 5 years is probably a pretty big commitment,
but that, the idea what we were trying to do was so that they overlapped. The way the ordinance is written now, is everybody's had 2-year
Yeah.
terms, but within the mayor's term, and then you
I know, that's
turn
kinda weird.
over.
Yeah.
So you had some overlap, so I guess you could do it.
So can we assign, I don't know how we write it into the ordinance, but we assign, like, 2 of the members that have been on it in the past have 1-year terms, and then going forward, they stagger into 2-year terms or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I
We
mean?
could, we could stagger it that way. I'll figure it out. But the other thought I had was is you just have the board as constituted, draw from a hat, and they see which term they get. It's fun. And
Well,
then they
just
can
like you,
negotiate.
You're on a roll tonight, so why not?
Yeah, might as well people hate me. So
Yeah,
let's go with
right.
it.
But yeah, let's talk about that, because that's an action item for, in 2 weeks, right?
What, the ordinance?
The ordinance.
So, I mean, it's not an emergency, clearly. But it's just one of those things that when we pulled it, looked at it for other reasons,
Yeah.
we recognized some problems. So if we can address it, I just want it to be
Yeah, I guess.
done in a
It
council.
doesn't have to be done in 2
favor.
weeks,
Well-
but if we can.
What I can do, I mean, I've got the amendment language done, so, and it's just like an ordinance, you have to have 3 readings, so we can throw it in there and, you can decide.
Make amendments
Yep.
later on, okay.
Okay.
Well, maybe let's try for that, just so we can
Get first reading.
yeah. So that's good.
Same with tourism.
Yep, tourism is the same,
Exactly.
yeah.
What was the other one?
I just had tourism and,
Okay.
It's just those 2.
Yeah. There's probably more. We'll find out.
Right.
Yet to be found.
Yet to be found.
Thanks for hanging around. Yeah, thanks, Shay. So, liaison positions or appointments. I noticed on all the old agendas that at the end, it kind of said like who the liaisons were, and this goes along with the reports that I'm instituting into these meetings. I want to hear from everybody. And this is a list of liaison appointments that, correct me if I'm wrong, these are supposed to be from the town council, right? Or they could be anyone. Jim, do you know on that?
My understanding is you had a council member that was the liaison, like you were the economic development and so it's kind of like a committee within the
Right.
legislature, so.
Yeah, with that being said, I mean, everyone's gonna have like 2 or 3.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how it was.
Okay. Well, that's fine. And just so everyone's clear, if I want whoever is in charge of these certain committees or whatever it is, we're gonna want reports. And so whether you attend the meetings or you get reports from the appropriate people, that's what, I want to make sure with the open communication with the town, that everyone knows, getting a quarterly update from, Alpine Fire is pretty doable. Water and sewer, we're always getting reports on that. Parks and Rec,
Can special events, can that be added along with Parks and Rec Department, or did we want that as?
see, I think
something?
special events is more of, like, what Melody's working on a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
things.
Yeah, like-
Don't you agree?
Yeah, Winter Jubilee, Mountain Days.
Yeah.
Okay.
4th of July or,
Yeah.
All the ongoing time.
right.
Okay.
So, I figure Parks and Rec would definitely be, specific to them. I think special events would be, whatever, I mean, it could be the town cleanup, that could be a special
Yeah.
event, sort of thing. But what I guess I wanted to put out there in this meeting is if anyone has specific interests, that you let me know. And you don't have to tell me right now, but there's, if you don't pick one that you want, then Jim's gonna draw your name out of a hat. So, 'cause I'm not doing it.
Well, I'll let you know, as for full disclosure on economic development, it's generally the mayor that sits in. I am the only councilman that sits in on the board,
Economic Development.
Economic Development Board.
But
With
that's
that
not
said,
That's not even on there. Oh, wait.
it is your choice.
Yeah, I don't mind sitting out. How often is that?
It's at least once a month,
Uh-huh.
first Monday of the month generally,
And where do they meet?
Afton. Except for our next meeting's in Cokeville.
How
And it's-
often
and
does
it's
that
a-
happen?
And it's a day long,
Why is it in Cokeville?
because we're essentially revamping everything, and to my pleasure, finally actually working to be a real ED board, which I've been very vocal for the past 2 years of, we've strayed, and now we're
Reining it in a little bit?
reining it in a lot.
It sounds to me like you're invaluable to that board.
They do like me as far as I know.
Yeah.
But I bring that up because it is, I serve at the privilege of the mayor for that board.
Yeah.
And I'm the only council on there, everybody else is a mayor.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, that's really
Well, let's talk about that a little bit
Yeah.
more offline,
Yeah.
but, yeah, so anyways, we don't have to belabor that anymore, but I just wanted to put, it out there that, we'll look for you guys to give a report every once in a while on these different topics, so if there's anything that's interesting to you, let me know. So we talked about the rec board a little bit, right?
Yeah.
The ordinance, and, tourism and travel, you're working on both of
Yep.
those?
Just send them to Monica.
Okay. And then Alpine policy and procedure, so Andrea and Monica, you guys have been working on that, and the 3 of you, okay, where does that stand?
Yeah, it's
Got an update.
Jim's recommendation, though, that we don't do this quickly.
Yeah.
So, and my concern has been all along, that whatever we do here, since we're having all the changes with the budget, and looking to change all the ledger accounts, all of that, it really would be timely to have this done at the same time. And I don't know how we do this and then hang on to it for 3 months before we actually put it in. I don't know how I get it done in that amount of time. I'm wondering if we ought to get a consultant Like, have somebody else write the book.
Well, Monica, and I apologize, I guess I threw in 90 days to just
Yeah.
give everybody some input on it
Yeah.
and maybe have it being brought before the meetings, but I think employee input is important. And maybe we ought to just take sections, each one of the work
Yeah.
meetings and invite the employees if they want to come in and talk about it. This is what we're going to talk about it and take it by sections. And
Yeah.
do it that way, so you're not, I was just trying to keep you
No,
guys from feeling
well,
overwhelmed.
and originally I tried to do that with staff, but they never
Talk
came to
about
the
it.
meeting. So we've shifted to be able to move forward because they've all asked for direct deposit. And they've all asked for biweekly payroll. So that's what these changes were.
Oh,
to accommodate.
those would be fine. I guess what we could just do is just say that's fine, but
Okay.
I was under the impression we were gonna do the whole thing by
think
next
we
council
were
meeting,
gonna-
and I was.
yeah.
No, it's just this.
Okay,
Slowly.
all right.
So do we have, is there any reason why we can't just make that change?
We can make that change. We'll just, when we update the policy manual, it'll go in. I don't see that it's any requirement. We just need to make sure they sign something saying, yeah, this is where it's going and this is our information, so.
Okay, so if you get together, there's probably a standard form or whatever, and we can just start doing that, like right away.
Okay.
When would be the next pay period?
So
When would you do it?
the way I have it planned is that if council approves the changes to the employee handbook, that
At the next meeting.
at the next meeting, which will be on the 21st, the pay period will end on the 25th. And so the first 2-week biweekly pay period would start on the 26th and run through the 11th with them getting paid all of us getting paid on the 17th by direct deposit. So, the one thing that I've done a little visual for the employees, but the one thing I need to do is I wanted to gauge where we were going before I sat down and wrote the memo to the employees to hand to them this week that says, we are making these changes, here's a direct deposit form, as long as council passes this on the 21st, we'll want to be prepared. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. If the end of the pay period is the 25th,
Mm-hmm.
can't we pay them the following Friday? Or when,
So, no, I have to pay them on the well, yeah, I guess I could once you pass it. I could. Yes.
because, yeah, they're not gonna wanna wait till the 17th to get paid.
No, I was gonna pay him,
On the
like on the 28th.
Right.
I was gonna
typical
cut off
last
the
day
pay,
of the month.
yeah, I was gonna cut off the pay period on the 25th, pay him on the 28th, and then the next time would be the 17th.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So the 28th would be hand checks, the 17th would be direct deposit.
yes.
That sounds good to me. I mean, let's not make any decisions tonight, but,
Been trying to do
Yeah.
this for years, let's do it.
yeah. I think everyone will appreciate
And so, and also this will impact council and
Right,
the other, and planning and zoning that get paid,
right.
so. They'll be able to utilize that as well.
That sounds
It
good.
goes around,
This-
brings Salt Lake
yes.
first and then
Just
comes
for
back.
clarity, this policy and procedure, that's the way the town.
That's our basically
The administrative-
employee handbook.
It's an employee
the
handbook.
Administrative workings for the town.
Exactly, yeah, it only affects the employees. But basically, we're getting paid, bi-monthly, is that what it's called? Twice monthly right now. And so we want to move to every 2 weeks. So it just makes it way easier.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare at the end of the month, trying to get everyone's time card and get it paid on the last day of the month, and
Yeah.
it'll be so much better.
So the pay period actually ends on the day they get paid. So it's kind
They're
of,
handing in time cards for
And-
work they haven't even done yet, or whatever it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
so,
Ooh, and illegal.
Yeah,
so this is gonna,
yeah.
right now, it's gonna stop making payroll. Payroll's important. All of us want to be paid, but it's not an emergency. And it feels like an emergency on payday right now.
Yeah.
The way it affects the town is you have happy town employees.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And I think, and to that note, I think when we're all done with these revisions, we will call it the Town of Alpine Employee Handbook. This
Yeah.
doesn't really, the name doesn't really tell you what it is. So,
Right.
yeah,
That's awesome. Thanks, Monica.
yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Sorry, I think we went a little long, but, it was all good. So, anyways, we adjourn. We don't have to have a vote to
No,
adjourn.
we
Not
don't,
really,
no.
really.
We had one
That whole
angry
thing,
guy.
yeah.
That whole
Almost
thing.
had some drama. I was like, wow, it's gonna be one of those meetings.
I just